Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War, iOS. It's only sport. It's a sports show. Every afternoon live on the Platform 1 till 4. The only true independent daily radio sports program in this country. First up, we're talking Origin last night. What a contest. The physicality, the brutality. History repeated at Lang Park. Greg Martin out of Brisbane and Luke Priddis, two-time premiership winner and former Origin Blue. The thoughts of both men on your podcast. The All Blacks named to play Fiji Saturday afternoon in San Diego. 6 debutants, 5 of those on the bench. We had all the audio from the All Black presser. Thoughts and comments on that lineup, as well as the White Ferns lose again. That's 0-8 versus England. And comments offered afterwards by our captain Sophie Devine. Well, at least we're playing with smiles on our faces. Really? Wow, is that what it's come down to? Simon Doull joined us out of England, international commentator of much acclaim, just to discuss what is clearly now the worst performed professional representative sports side in this country. I don't want to pull wings off flies here or shoot fish in a bucket, but something's got to be said about this. We were all over the Open Championship. That's the British Open Golf at Royal Troon. Phil Tataurangi has played that course before for Kiwis in the lineup for the first time since 2009. We went to England to discuss who's going to replace Gareth Southgate. So much sport to squeeze into a podcast. We played glass half full, tight five, all of that coming. Begin the show the same way every day. I say tablets in hand, gather my flock. It's time for a sermon. Well, what about that last night at Lang Park? Let us go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Wow, what a game of league that was last night. Did it live up to the expectation and hype? Hell yes. That first half was physically brutal. What those players do to their bodies. Total disregard for physical safety, throwing themselves. Just kamikaze. Who would ever think you could call a scoreless first half of any game of code, rugby or league, as being a great first half of football? How can it be? Well, it wasn't exactly scoreless, yes, because Queensland kicked that penalty right on half-time to take a 2-0 lead into the break. But for 39 minutes and 50-odd seconds, there was hardly a line break or a try-scoring opportunity in it. It was just total, physical, brutal defence. When the contest is close like that, and when there's so much riding on it, it's a great example that you just don't need a tri-fest to make it compelling. Sport can be brilliant to watch without slam-dunk home run, both teams scoring 55 points each like Super Rugby often is. Look, let's be honest here. We love the gladiatorial nature of collision sports. That's why we watch them, because there is a violent aspect to it, because it's men doing things that us other men, well, we never could, because no, we never would. The scuffles, the bench clearing, the pushing, shoving, verbals, eyeballs, threats of it all exploding into a mass brawl. We absolutely love it. Last night, for me, was as good as sport gets. And yes, I'm a New South Wales fan, unashamedly so. I love winning that match up there under those circumstances. But if you love your league, then I hope that you agree. 2 things. Origin was the winner, and those hits just don't get any bigger. State against state, mate against mate. Mate, it was great.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Sports, news, headlines.
2 big stories involving rugby and rugby league teams, you could say. I'll start off with the All Blacks. Their side named to take on Fiji this weekend in San Diego. Mass changes. The potential for 6 players to make their test debut for the All Blacks. Those players being Billy Proctor, who's starting at centre. He's been named alongside Anton Leonard-Brown in the midfield. George Bell, Pasilio Tossi, Sam Darry, Wallace Satiti and Noah Hotham, all named to come off the bench, all yet to wear the black jersey on the field in a game capacity. Interesting talking point about this All Blacks team that has been named is you have Ethan Blackadder, more so a blind side than an open side flanker, playing at open side, and then you've got Luke Jacobson, who's very much more so a number 8 or at times an open side, playing blind side. So Jacobson at 6, Blackadder at 7. Interesting calls by Scott Robertson. Let's get to the other major sports story in this country that involves an egg-shaped ball, and if I may crack a joke.
Oh, and here we go. Yeah.
You couldn't for a second suggest that any one of the Queensland or New South Wales players at Lang Park last night of being eggs or chickens or shying away from the occasion. That was quite good.
No, not really. No one. The game was better than the joke.
Well, of course it was. It was a spectacular game. One of the best Origin games I've ever watched. And the opening half, they didn't have any points until the 40th minute when the hooter went, which was a penalty goal. It wasn't even a try. I still wanted it to keep going.
Yeah,
I didn't want it to
65
end.
minutes trialist, incredible.
Exactly.
Amazing.
65 minutes was when Bradman Best got the first try of the match. That was followed up 3 minutes later by another try to Mitchell Moses. New South Wales winning 14 points to 4, only the third time they have ever won a deciding Origin match in Brisbane. The last time 2005, the time before that 1994. Spectacular performance by New South Wales and a good performance by Queensland. A spectacular match, a brilliant advertisement for rugby league. And this one point during the commentary, Andrew John said, "This is the pinnacle of our sport." He was absolutely right. Another White Ferns game, and you guessed it, another loss. The final chapter in their 8-match tour of England has been recorded in the record books as a 20-run defeat to the English. 0-8 across these two white ball series they've had against England recently. They lose the T20 series 5-zip, the one-day series before that 3-zip. The final of these 5 T20s, a 20-run loss, as I say. And it's another white ball series defeat to England. They've had so many, have the White Ferns this year. Chelsea have begun disciplinary proceedings against midfielder Enzo Fernandez after he posted a video on social media that the French Football Federation said included an alleged racist and discriminatory chant. Yeah, this is not a nice story at all. And golf news, the Open Championship, I would call it the British Open, but you're not allowed to say that. That is getting underway, teeing off this afternoon, 5:35 p.m. is the first group of players getting underway. And we've got how many Kiwis? 4 Kiwis playing.
4 Kiwis, mate.
Yep. Michael Hendry, Daniel Hillier, Ryan Fox, and as I scroll down the leaderboard here, Kazuma Kabori.
Yep.
That's his name, the young man. So that's getting underway, the final golf major of the year. For the time being, Martin, as I cast my eye over the mass media news websites, that is what is making news.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Origin 3. You could not have asked for a better game of league last night. It was just compelling, wasn't it? It was enthralling. And this despite the fact that, well, it was as close to being 0 at halftime as it possibly could have been. A last-second penalty goal to Queensland. 65 minutes trialist Greg Martin, very proud Queenslander, does the Triple M Breakfast Show out of Brisbane. Former Wallaby, subdued his reaction. Mate.
Yes.
Yes.
Not a good day to be a Queenslander.
Well, okay. Let's just pause that for a second and celebrate what it was. Man, have you seen a level of physicality and brutality like that in the first half of a game of code?
It was the greatest trialist first 65 minutes in the history of rugby league. It was a rip. How do we... I know they struggled at half-time because there were no tries to score, so they had to throw a few more Harvey Norman ads in. Oh, God, that was good. I don't know how any of them will back up on the weekend, but they probably will. That was superhuman, and finally Queensland cracked in a very New South Wales played like we normally do, showed belief and just got there in the end. Bloody hell.
At half-time, mate, you're sitting there and I'm looking at the score going, what? They're up 2-0? How the hell could that possibly have happened? But you're right. In the 60-something minute, you could just tell they were gassed. And I actually think it was Freddie Fittler pointed that out. He said Gaggai's gassed and the Hammer's gassed and you got to attack that side. And that's what happened.
Yep, next thing they scored 2 tries in 3 minutes and we're gone. Oh, mate. I drove up Caxton Street. You know where Caxton Street is? So I work at the top end of it. Drove up there at 4 o'clock this morning. Didn't seem to stop people drinking heavily. There were thousands still lurking after a loss. Oh, bloody hell. Anyway, no one was real happy. It affects the psyche. It's like if the All Blacks get beaten, it affects the whole psyche of our society. Productivity will be near zero today. Everyone is just hurting, stinging, because we've always just reckoned we can beat those dirty New South Wales. Queensland, they showed grit and toughness, and what a great game it was.
Well, I mean, okay, and you've got to separate, the fact, and it's hard for me because as a New South Wales Blue fan, I mean, just taking it up the chutter every year for so long, and also with history against you and all of that kind of stuff. And as I said, the first half arm wrestle coming away with 0 points at the end of that, and by the end of the game, it doesn't feel like a game that at the end you can kind of boast about, though, Greg. I'm just more sitting there going, wow, shite, look at that.
That seemed to be the vibe from the Queensland players. They were disappointed, but they were happy to be involved in a classic game of footy. What I found hard to take, and I don't know if I've spoken to you about this before, but I've appointed myself the Commissioner for Moral Responsibility in Rugby League.
Yep.
Too many kicks on shoulders celebrating after the game, and that's not a good example to show to the kiddies. Too many people leaping up and putting your groin region.
Yeah, you don't like that, do you? That's your lunch on shoulder. Okay, knock, knock.
Well, who's there?
The Lang Park crowd.
The Lang Park crowd. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just listen to that sound,
I
mate.
played
Listen
it
to that sound, mate.
I don't know if you hang around. It would have been after midnight, but Daly Cherry Evans, when he got to speak, when he was interviewed after the game, tracked that down. He was booed because all the Queensland fans had gone home 10 minutes after the game. They'd all gone. New South Wales fans were the only ones left. That Queensland captain, after the decider in Brisbane, got up and he was booed. It was, a sobering moment. Can I give you another one? I went to the Broncos last Saturday night, and they were down 28-6. It was half-time, or 22-6 at half-time, and then just afterwards, the crowd disappeared. I've never seen anything like it. I stopped 3 blokes and I said, where are you going? Thinking they were just catching a train or trying to get home early on a bus or something or other. We're going to the pub to watch the Wallabies. All right, there's a turnaround. People left the Broncos. There's 35,000 people there before halftime. I reckon there was 23 after halftime because they wanted to go and watch our national rugby team. Now, there's a turnaround.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Luke Priddis, 2-time premiership winner, first with Brisbane, then with Penrith, our former Origin Blue. Joined us on the show too with his thoughts. Look, we love the physicality, we love the biff, we love the implied violence of it all, don't we? Because that's what this is. It's fantasy is what it is. It's gladiatorial is what it is. We are cavemen deep down is what we are. We want to see big men smashing big men, and we got it last night. Luke Priddis. How about that last night? I'm still stunned, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I think it will go down as sort of one of the great games in Origin history. 2-0 at half time. The Queenslanders were pretty epic in their defence, given that New South Wales, I think they probably had around 70% of the ball, and most of that was sort of down near, or at least in Queensland's half. And like Queensland seemed to do, they just seemed to pop out on top at extraordinary times, and then obviously held on right until sort of the last sort of 15 minutes. And I think probably just I think maybe the rotation of Queensland and the lack of forwards on the bench may have got them in the end in terms of fatigue. And I think that's sort of what Blues were aiming to do. And as I said, being a New South Welshman, it was great to be at the game surrounded by dirty Queensland fans and to be able to stand up when the whole crowd was quiet and do big claps and cheers. I think there was another bloke in front of me about 2 seats away that him and his wife had his Blues jumpers on, so we were all sort of cheering each other. But the crowd was pretty quiet. But regardless of the result, I think games 1 and 2, they were probably over by half time, and this is the game that sort of all Origin fans wanted to see. And look, there may be some decisions that people can say that the ref made this and made that, but I think overall he had a pretty good game, and it was actually the footballers that decided the outcome.
Yeah, so much to unpick there. I'm just sitting there nodding my head to it all. Look, I know it's the oldest cliche in sport, isn't it? But I actually do believe that the sport was the winner last night, and that first half, I mean, how stunned were you at the end of it and Spencer gave away a really unnecessary penalty, but I'm just sitting there going, how the hell are they going in with the lead? I mean, because that was the most depressing thing about it, just thinking, my God, we've dominated this whole half here, or most of it, yet they've got the lead.
Yeah, exactly. And that was sort of, as I said, the fear that we'd had all the ball. We had dominated. Like Queensland, if you look at it, only got out because of the couple of penalties that New South Wales gave them. Otherwise, they were struggling to get past the 30-metre line for every kick that sort of either Daly or the young fullback Walsh was putting in, and didn't seem to do too much kicking. But we were right on top. And as you said, then at the end they pop away. They did, and I think if there was ever question marks over that young bloke's playing future in Origin, I think he sort of stood up for Queensland last night, and he made that sort of first break in the game, and they end up going into the sheds at 2-0 up. So how that happened, we don't know, but no, again, I totally agree that the game was the winner. But a little bit better that the Blues won, not Queensland.
You know, how important Lomax and those kicks, mate. I was just saying it to Lachlan off air. I said, that score at 8-4 should have been 4-all. To actually take that penalty to start with it 2-0 down, that's the most difficult kick for a right-footed kicker from that sideline. He absolutely iced it. And then, of course, the conversion as well. And that applied scoreboard pressure. I think it was mentioned by Andrew Johns also in their commentary. But, I was actually thinking at the time, that turned what should be 4-all into 8-4. And how important in such an arm wrestle?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I was sort of thinking I would have taken the tap and kept the pressure on them, and because it wasn't a foregone conclusion he was going to kick that first goal. But yeah, he nailed that. I just said from the offside for a right-hand kicker, and then I was pretty much right behind him when he was kicking that second goal after the first try, and again, it didn't look like missing. So our game is that good these days, and the goal kickers are that good that there comes sort of a bit of an expectation that if you're a frontline goal kicker that you need to be hitting sort of those goals under pressure, and he certainly stood up. The wall trying to penetrate Queensland was such because, and again, you probably see it more on the television, but young Reece Walsh was in the line all the time. So I was probably surprised more so that we didn't, with the good classy kickers of sort of Moses and Luai short kicking game, that we didn't probably try and put one through the line a little bit earlier and on play 3 or 4, because he was definitely in the line the whole time, which meant that we were sort of defending against 13. But they stuck to their guns, and to the credit, they've sort of created history, given that a decider hasn't been won by the Blues since I think it was 2005 up there in Queensland. So hats off to the whole team and the coaching staff for getting the job done.
A couple of quick questions. We'll let you go. Thank you so much. Luke Priddis is with us. I just want to hark back to what you said right at the beginning there. You're a Blues man. You've got a couple of blue jerseys in front of you. The whole of Queensland is there, and they're corn-fed and bred. They sleep with their mother's best mate called Jed. I mean, you know all of this, mate. And yet, being in that stadium, that atmosphere, with everything riding on it, and you're up there screaming for the Blues and that. What is it like? Do you feel for your own personal safety or not?
Oh, look, there was a bloke behind me wearing a Blues jumper as well. He was probably about 5 rows back, and like all Queenslanders, I've never seen 50,000 people in the stadium disperse so quickly after they lost, where they like to give it to everyone when they win. But old matey behind me was cheering like he was. He wasn't being sort of disrespectful or anything. And then few items in the crowd started coming our way, and I got hit with a full load of beer, and the bloke next to me, who was a dirty Queensland supporter, he got hit with it as well. But instead of trying to have a go at the bloke that actually threw the beer, he had a go at the New South Wales bloke that was cheering, and
go on.
Cautioned him from inciting the crowd, and it was like, oh, come on, mate, he's doing nothing disrespectful. But look, it was great. As I said, I booked my ticket before Origin 2, whether it was going to be a dead rubber or not. But to be up there looking at live, and again, it's just one of the great stadiums in Australia, if not the world, to watch. To watch sport. Obviously, it's not a round stadium. It's built for either soccer or rugby league, and to be part of that, and again stay around and watch the New South Wales blokes go over to the Batchy Blues and get photos with them and really suck it up. Obviously, there probably would have only been about 5,000 people left by that stage, but they enjoyed their time in the field. And I just sort of think that maybe the Queenslanders could have shown a little bit more respect for the game as a whole to stand around and sort of at least clap their players in in the ceremony afterwards.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. Might be 2 minutes. We might even extend it if we're having fun talking about it. And when this goes, we move on to the next topic. Obviously, we'll talk about the White Ferns. Well, what can you say apart from the fact that those results are... This is probably the lowest ebb for this team. I think. Can it possibly get any worse? The answer to that is yes, because we're about to play Australia next. Oh, Origin last night. Well, you're a Queensland fan, so just suck it, man. Eat it, suck it, wear it, bear it, Lachlan. Go on. All Black side. You like that All Black side, Lachlan? British Open. Who you got? So, how come New Zealand Rugby League didn't want Madge to coach the All Black? The Kiwis again? He seems to have done all right with New South Wales. And racist chanting from the Argentinian football team after they won Copa America, directed at the French national team. Ew, yuck. Let's talk, though, about Origin, since we've just spent an hour doing that. Both of us agree. Just a titanic clash, isn't it? And saying yesterday that what I wanted to see was just a great game of rugby league. And, put aside your personal petty prejudices about which team you wanted to win and not, Lachlan. Rugby league was the winner on the day. Come on.
Without a doubt. Absolutely. I got to say, I was watching it, sort of was a little bit tired last night. So
well, it's late.
I nestled into bed nice and warm. I had some sockies on. I had the heater on. I had couple of little blankies. I felt nice and cozy. And I knew I was going to probably just nod off. And I tell you what, all I needed was a dose of State of Origin football, because I was just up and about and punching the bed and punching the air, and there wasn't any tries in the first half. Crazy, eh? Which was incredible. And,
actually, there hardly a line break in that first half.
New South Wales had one on their first set, I think.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And Daly Cherry Evans managed to...
Cherry Evans, and then Cherry Evans ankle taps,
yeah. And Queensland, I think, might have had one as well. But it was such a titanic slugfest, particularly in sort of the middle 60 metres, if you will. If you take out sort of the 20-metre area close to the goal line, so the red zones, as they call it in the NFL, that middle 60 metres was just intense. And as is always the case with State of Origin, the crowd really makes it just so much more incredible, particularly at Suncorp Stadium, because they're closer to the field.
Yeah, well, this is a great advertisement for whatever is going to happen in Auckland. Forget the idea of playing rugby and cricket or football and cricket or league and cricket on the same ground. Make it a goddamn rectangle. Yeah. Put the crowd right beside the grass. Yeah. That's where you get the atmos.
Yeah, which is what makes Mount Smart quite a good ground when the Warriors are playing.
Well, it's what makes Waikato Stadium great. What makes Forsyth Bar great? I mean, it's not that bloody hard to figure out, mate.
No, a superb contest that I didn't want that first half to end.
The All Black side, we'll get into this a little bit more in a few minutes. There was always going to be changes. You like essentially what you see? I just find it hard to get my head around this being any kind of a contest, because we are going to beat Fiji. And comfortably.
And it's obviously, this has always been the case with the All Blacks, that when they play these, with all due respect to Fiji, weaker sides, that they do rotate the team. And so...
This is a team that got into the quarterfinals of the World Cup, do not forget.
Yeah, a team that beat the Wallabies at the World Cup last year.
That's right.
And actually that pool, if you remember, was quite a tricky one to work out pre-tournament.
Mate, they took England to the wire. Remember, we were watching that game in the quarterfinal before our game against Ireland. Remember, we were watching that. And it came down to a couple of drop goals right at the end.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, you're exactly right. And it was they had Georgia in the pool, who've gotten a couple of big results in the last couple of years, and Portugal, who beat Fiji. So no, that was a great pool. No, Fiji are a good side, and I remember when we played them in 2022, we beat them by about 30 points in both games.
No, we struggled that year.
We did physically. We did. Our set piece struggled because Fiji's forwards coach was Jason Ryan at the time.
There you go.
So that's probably why. I think it was Jason Ryan. So no, I'm pleased with the team. I'm pleased for a couple of things. I'm actually really excited to see Billy Proctor at centre, because I like you've been underwhelmed with Rieko Ioane pretty much the entire time he's been at centre, but particularly these two tests against England. I'm looking forward to seeing Caleb Clark. I'm really looking forward to seeing Wallace Satiti.
Yeah.
As well as this front row coming off the bench, mainly Pasilio Tossi, who's just a monster. He's huge. He's tall. He's had a really good season for the Hurricanes, and he's had this what's the meteoric rise, I think that's, you can describe into the All Blacks. So no, I'm excited to see.
I'd like to actually point out, I'm really looking forward to seeing Narawa again because he had such a wretched time at the World Cup with injuries and that. So he'll come off the bench and play.
And he was great during Super Rugby as well. So
White Ferns. Doull will talk about this in a little while. Again, I cringe when I hear the captain afterwards saying things like we're playing with a smile on our face. Look, this isn't, this isn't beach cricket. It's not club cricket. You're playing for your country. And it's not about wearing a smile on your face. It's not about pulling your pants up, right? It's not about walking out with a bat in your hand. It's actually about being a competitive side. I felt like what annoys me the most, Lachlan, is I feel like we've been sold a lie about this team. We're constantly told how good this team is and how they're competitive. They're not, mate. They fail at every major international tournament. Any opponent that's half decent, we bottle it against them. 8 losses in a row is shameful is what it is, isn't it? And do you know what's going to happen now? We've got a month between the end of this tour, and we play 3 T20s against Australia, 19th, 22nd, 24th of September, then go to the T20 Women's World Cup. So where is the coach, Ben Sawyer, in between times? He's coaching 10s cricket in England. So he's not actually preparing this team to play Australia next. After coming off 8 consecutive losses, Ben's off earning money for himself, coaching 10s cricket, and so this team is now going to have a couple of Zoom conferences with Ben before they play Australia. This is what New Zealand cricket has been reduced to. The tail wags the dog. That's just insane, isn't it? That's how you're going to prepare to play the best team in the world and get thrashed by them as well?
Yeah. Well, it's
inexcusable,
it shows to you.
It just shows they don't give a shit.
Yeah, well, on the surface, perhaps some more information can be unravelled if we were to dig quite deep, but at least on the surface, it looks terrible for Ben Sawyer to be doing that. It shows that he doesn't.
The optics are bad, is how they say it.
The optics are bad. He doesn't care at all about the state of this team and improving it.
Mate.
But the players don't either. But a lot of the time, and this is, I think this is a danger that our women's sports teams get into when they're in the space where they're trying to become professional and
be treated professionally.
Yeah, and form this path for themselves and the future generation. They say that. I don't really know how much they actually care about it, to be honest. But forming a path for them to be a professional cricketer if you're the White Ferns, and that's your job, and you can do that for as long as you like, and you get paid handsomely for it, which is fair enough. The thing is, we've seen it with the football Ferns, we're seeing it very much with the White Ferns, and I fear this could happen to the Black Ferns, especially if they get spanked by England at Twickenham in September, that there isn't seemingly consequence for poor performances. And a lot of the time it's because we just don't have the talent and the depth, but that means then that the players who are in there continue to go out there and play poorly and get all the luxuries of being a professional athlete, which to me, the optics are very bad. Just quickly on the White Ferns, got a couple of stats here. So going back to the very start of this year, of course, this doesn't include those horrible performances against Pakistan at the end of last year. First ever loss to them, first ever series loss, whatnot. We have lost a T20 series to England, which was 5 matches. We lost an ODI series to England, which was 3 matches. We then had England again in ODIs and lost. We had them again in T20s and lost. That's 4 or 5 straight series against England that we have lost in white ball cricket. We've lost 8 straight matches in all formats. And as you say, we've got the best team in the world coming up in T20s in their backyard in a couple of months, and the time between now and then the coach isn't even around. And that comes before a T20 World Cup in different conditions, Bangladesh.
Now, you won't hear any of this on the mainstream sports media. All you're going to hear is a giggle fest of the girls, the White Ferns, the British Open. The Open overnight for Kiwis.
The Open.
Is it just the usual suspects? We'll talk to Phil Tataurangi in about an hour or so from now about this. Is it just the usual suspects? Is it Rory?
No, it's not Rory, because I tell you
Rory's got every chance, mate.
No, this is what he will do. He will either do nothing for the first 2 rounds and make this insane run out of nowhere on moving day, and then the 4th round, and then he'll come a couple of strokes shy of the winner, and everyone's like, oh, geez, I tell you what, Rory, if you could just time that a bit better. Or he'll do the opposite and he'll be superb for the first 2 or 3 days, and then he'll collapse on day 4. So don't bring up Rory. He hasn't won a major in 10 years.
DeChambeau, Bryson, perhaps.
DeChambeau's form's been really good the last year or 2. Same with someone like Brooks Koepka. Scheffler. I've always got a soft spot for Cameron Smith, who, as much as I tell you what, I've never forgiven Tell for this. I asked for a good bet ahead of the Masters. I said, I'm thinking Cam Smith, or I think it was Will Zalatoris. Cam Smith ended up finishing in the top 5 or top 10. Zalatoris didn't even make the cut, I'm pretty sure. Or at least he didn't perform as well.
What about your boy Tiger?
He's not my boy.
What about your boy?
He's everyone's boy.
What about your boy Tiger?
What about John Rahm?
Yeah, chance. What about Ryan? Ryan plays well in Britain, mate.
I was going to say, he does play well in Britain. His big win, was it last year or the year before? Wentworth, and he had I don't know if it was his first appearance at the
Came about third
Open
or fourth, wasn't
Championship, but it was one of his earlier ones where he'd set a record or had the best ever back nine on opening day or something like that, and ended up performing really well. So Ryan, absolutely, he's got a chance of. I tell you what, Ryan Fox, a couple of dollars on the top 20 finish. Why not?
What about them White Ferns? I feel kind of mean, but look, at the same time, I believe that if you want to be a professional sports side, if you want to call yourself professional players, then you've got to then also allow the fact that us on this side of the microphone are going to analyse, theorise, we're going to hypothesise, we are going to criticise. The White Ferns deserve it. 0-8 against England. This has been a rubbish tour. And no saving graces at all. We've got to play Aussie next, and we've got a month in between. You know, they get a lot of hype, they get a lot of hoopla, they get a lot of publicity, the White Ferns. Well, the flip side of that is when you are the worst performing New Zealand professional sports side, you're going to wear and cop it a little. Simon Doull, out of England with his thoughts, as well as the summer of cricket. And when you look, stack it up, ladies and gentlemen, this year as far as the Black Caps have gone, test matches against Australia, South Africa. We're going to play India and England. It doesn't really get better than that, Dooley. Summer of cricket for the Black Caps. We get 3 tests against England. That's the absolute highlight across November and December. And we'll cast our minds back to the last time that they came here, and Neil Wagner, they were a fantastic test at the Basin Reserve. That's the highlight. I'm so glad it's 3 tests, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the good thing. When they've come to England, when the Black Caps have toured England the last couple of times, there have been 3 tests as well, which has been fantastic. These 2 test series, look, unless it's against a lower tier nation, I don't like them at all. And even then, I mean, what the Bangladesh series proved was, they can still beat us at home. So, look, they're very good. I think it'll be a terrific tour. You know what the England fans are like. They love a trip away. There'll be a good support of Barmy Army fans there. So, the test match, I think at Wellington at the Basin Reserve is always a highlight. I think it's probably, still right up there as the best test ground in the country, and it's very well supported. And I think it'll be pretty packed for 3 or 4 days. So it's a series to look forward to, that is for sure.
And when you look at the calendar year, because look, the rest of it, it's going to be fun when it arrives, but it leaves me a little bit cold. I mean, a white ball series against Sri Lanka, and there's a huge gap between the beginning of January and the end of March where there's absolutely no cricket. But when you look at this particular year, and we've played a couple against Aussie, we've played a couple against South Africa, just on paper I'm talking about, then 3 against England, 3 away at India. On paper, it doesn't get any better than that. When you dissect it, of course, okay, South Africa sent an F side here up, and it's a real shame that we're not getting India here. But, to have all of those countries in the same year, that's probably the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah, top 4 countries or top 3 countries when you look at South Africa, India and England. And as you said, look, the South African thing was disappointing, but you understand the nuances of why they had to do that and how it happened. And it unearthed a couple of decent players. I think that was probably a positive from South Africa's point of view. For New Zealand, it's what you wish for. It's what you hope for as a test match player, to play the big 3 in the space of 12 months in competitive test series. And, it's going to be a slightly new look bowling attack from New Zealand's point of view back home this summer. Some fresh faces, some that have just, recently been involved. So I'll be interested to see how they compete and how England go as well, touring down under, playing, the style of cricket that we're sort of become accustomed to see them play.
Simon Doull, 98 tests, wickets for New Zealand, spends his whole life touring the world calling cricket. A couple more things before we go then. Defeat again for the White Ferns. They needed 24 runs off the last ball. That takes me back to that Duckworth. I think it brought in the Duckworth. It was that South Africa-England semi-final in '92, wasn't it? Where they were kind of looking good, South Africa. But this is really disappointing. This is 3 one-dayers and now 5 T20s, and they've lost them all. I hate to sort of shoot fish in a bucket, but we've been saying this all along, isn't it? We just aren't really up to that standard at the moment.
No, we're not. And they were better today with the ball. Restricted England to, again, what was probably a gettable total, but we're just not firing enough shots with the bat. Mealy Kerr was decent today, but we're not getting enough out of the big guns against the top tier sides, and I think that's the concern. As I said last week, off the field, they're talking the right game. They are apparently training the house down. That they're trying to improve, trying to do everything they possibly can, but the results just are not there. This is a very, very good England side, and they've come into this series, tested out, playing with 4 spinners, heading to the T20 World Cup, of course, in Bangladesh. But you'd be worried about New Zealand's ability to play good spin, because I think those surfaces are going to be very spin friendly in Bangladesh. So New Zealand's ability to play good spin, I think, will be a real problem for them. You come up against Australia, India and England with 2, 3 or 4 at stages, high quality spinners. I don't see us progressing very far in that tournament unless the big guns start to really fire.
Fronting the Zoom press conference from San Diego. So 6 debutants in that All Black side, 1 in the run on 15, 5 on the bench. Some of the questions that were asked at the press conference. So many changes. So what can we expect then from the All Blacks in terms of all-round performance?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing is, we use a whole squad of 32. When you don't make many changes, only an injury force change with TJ in that second test. You pick players for a reason. You give them an opportunity, and they've trained really hard over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And it's a hell of a great opportunities for some from debutants to go and show their talent.
One of the questions that wasn't asked, actually, which I wish I had have actually asked now when I think about it, was, were you tempted at all to play the same team again, given the fact that, we get fed this narrative about, the players are rusty, they haven't played together, they haven't had much rugby, all of that kind of stuff. Well, why not give them, 3 games in a row then to get those combinations right? Do they have a lot to play for, these players, in this test? And it was a long-winded question where I can't remember who was asking it, simply saying, look, if they play well, is there potential to then get into the A-team starting 15?
It's a test match. I think that's the first thing. We're really respectful with Fiji when they get going and they get rolling and they get their arms free and they break the game up. They can beat anyone. They've had some really big scalps over the last few years. So we play, from Super Rugby, we get to know their players very well. And when you get Semi Raja back, you're in for a hell of a test match. So, look, we're prepared. We've got a good balance of a lot of experienced players and a couple of debutants. We've mixed it so that, Billy Proctor's next to Anton and Sevu with Bowden at fullback. There's a few caps around him to make sure he, gets all the support and experience he needs. And you've got Cortez and D Mac who've got a great combination through Super Rugby. In Artie, who goes all right too. So you've got a good balance, hard-working forward pack, and some great players coming off the bench to make an impact.
Beauden Barrett starts at 15, even though he has also been used at 10. So what's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, look, Stephen played well. It was a chance for us to, the dual pivot. He worked so well with D-Mac. It was an incredible cameo, as you stated, and now it's the opportunity for us to build depth in different positions. So, he can slot into 10 if we need be. And it was, a mindful decision for us, with the performance he showed, a player like him coming back from Japan and playing at that top level, that their class is permanent.
He started as an impact player off the bench, Beauden Barrett, didn't he? And remember the 2015 World Cup final, he came off the bench and pretty much sealed it with that try. And all of this time later, almost 10 years later, that seems to be his role these days. 505 on the text, if you would have started him at first 5 in this test, or would you start him against Argentina? See, it seems to me that by naming McKenzie again, that they're not quite convinced. That's what I read into that they're not quite convinced about McKenzie. Now, I don't know whether any of us are convinced. He's been okay as the All Black first 5, but he hasn't controlled games and he's still a little skittish, very brave. I'm never, ever going to question the guy's courage. Man, doesn't matter who's running at him, high ball, he'll go hard. He'll tackle whoever's in front of him, all of that. But being the All Black first five is about winning test matches for New Zealand. And I'm still not convinced that he's that guy. When we go to Africa, yeah, okay. See, and I bet you have the same doubts as me about that. Ethan Blackadder, named at number 7. Again, I don't even know. Does anyone know what position he plays? Does he a 6? Is he a 7? I would have liked to have seen RDS here. Anyway, Ethan Blackadder, where's he at health-wise and his playing level?
Look, he's extremely fit. We'll train at 80%. We asked him to train at 50% still. He's all go, like he... Once the whistles goes in any sort of form of training or playing, he's at 100% and his body's in good condition. He's clear of mind. Look, he's been training for a long period of time with us and he's ready to go. We're excited for him, pleased for him.
I sincerely hope that he gets a run and not only this game, but stays on the field this game and then perhaps the next game, because we just haven't seen the best of this guy in an All Black jersey. He's one of those guys frustrating. Like, I go all the way back to a guy called Mike Brewer. What a brilliant player he was, but he could just never get a decent run in the All Blacks because he was always injured. And Blackadder, I hope like hell he's not, but until he has a run of games, and I'm talking about 6 or 7 or 8 in a row, where he starts, finishes the game or whatever, but, I just don't retain confidence that this guy, maybe he's just one of those players who always gets injured. God, I hope not. How much focus on the line out and during training during the week, because it has been clearly an area of concern for the All Blacks versus England, and also because we've got several new players, their ability to fix the problems that the line out has had.
Yeah, good. Jace has spent a bit of time just to make sure we're getting calls right. We missed a couple of calls. We just got miscommunication on the weekend. We've got to get that right, and we owned it. This week is really important. You win 100% of your ball and to put pressure on teams, and so it's been a bit of a focus. Well, it has been a focus for us, yes.
We need to talk. We need to talk.
Glass half full, Lachlan, regarding the All Blacks selection.
Next!
Loose forward trio, named as 7, Ethan Blackadder, 6, Jacobson, 8, Ardie Savea. Half full, half empty glass on that.
Half full, and the reason half full was I'm really looking forward to seeing Ethan Blackadder back in a All Blacks jumper. I've always really liked Luke Jacobson, so I'm glad he's getting a start. I would much prefer to see them the other way round, and actually even have Ardie at open side and Jacobson at number 8, because then you'd have all three of them playing their traditional positions.
Okay, that's why I'm going glass half empty on this, because I want to see Ardie play 7, and I'm not sure which position is the best position for any of these blokes. And it's about bloody time we found out, isn't it?
Next!
Glass half full, glass half empty. Beauden Barrett, fullback.
Glass half empty, to be honest. I'd actually like to see him play first 5.
Same.
I think the way I look at, I'm not being critical of Damien McKenzie, but the way I look at his selection at 10 for this test, to me it suggests that they're still not convinced. I think you said that earlier in the show, so obviously we think alike on this. And I would think that if you're not convinced, I'd like to see maybe at half-time, do they then actually put Beauden at 10 and then bring, who's on the bench? It's Nadawa and Hotham, and who's the other back on the bench?
Geordie
Barrett. Okay, maybe Geordie can... He can play 15.
Yeah, that's right. So they have covered first 5 with Damien and Beauden Barrett.
Next!
I would say glass half full for that, because I want Beauden Barrett to start. But again, I wish he was first 5. Glass half empty then. You've just brought that up. McKenzie starting at 10. And I'll say I'm glass half full on this because I don't think he's been that convincing in the first 2 tests. I think he's been okay. But okay is not good enough to be the All Black first 5, especially when we're playing Argentina. And if there's going to be a change, you would expect it to be in this particular game, because if McKenzie doesn't have a 10 out of 10 performance or a 9 out of 10 performance against Fiji, we've got Argentina next. Are you going to throw Beauden Barrett in there, given the fact he hasn't played first 5 by that stage for months? Mm-hmm. Months. At test level, months.
Yeah, I'd be half glass full, because the thing with Damien McKenzie, Look, All Black first fives haven't exactly always hit the ground running. Like, it took a while for Beauden Barrett to actually become a starter.
Same from
He was
Moana.
always behind not only Dan Carter, but Aaron Cruden. Cruden didn't have a spectacular start to his All Blacks career, and I always felt a bit one-dimensional. Colin Slade never made it happen. Richie Mo'unga, as you say, that took a long time, but it wasn't really until last year, I think, that the debate around who our starting 10 was over, and then we were actually comfortable, and now we're wanting him back. And even then, like, prior to Dan Carter, there was question marks around Carlos Spencer consistently, same with Andrew Murdens to an extent, maybe not as much as Carlos Spencer. And Dan Carter, I think, is the only one who really, from day dot, we were like, okay, this is probably our 10 of the future. So I think David McKenzie, I'd like to think the coaches are giving him a bit more time than, say, the public would.
Glass half full, glass half empty, 6 debutants.
Oh, glass half full.
Glass half full. No
Absolutely.
question about that. Absolutely. I love it. I love it when the newbies are named. Congratulations to all.
Next!
Glass half full, glass half empty. New front row. Combination.
Who was it? It's Tamaiti, Fletcher Newell, and who's the hooker? Oh, Safai Moore. Actually, I'm glass half full.
Yeah,
I'm glass half full because I've always really liked Fletcher Newell. He was great when he came off the bench last week. And same with Tamaiti Williams. Both, obviously, Crusader. I think they're both Canterbury players. And obviously Crusaders players, so Razor knows them well. And Safai Moore was the best hooker in Super Rugby.
George Bell's going to come on, as well as Tossi's going to come on. So, yeah, I'm glass half full all over there. Final one then.
Next!
Glass half full, glass half empty. The match as a whole.
Glass half empty.
Same. And I hate to say it about the All Blacks, and I don't want to be called a whinger or one, but it's not a match to get excited about.
No.
The
If it was in
Yarpies are playing Portugal this weekend. It's not a match to get excited about if you're a Springbok fan. If this match was in Fiji, I'd be glass half more than full about it.
And I'd be parking out with a couple of beers watching it, absolutely.
And I'd be celebrating the fact that finally we've taken a match to their place, and the islands would go berserk, and there'd be lots of tourism dollars pumping in. But
we
of course,
saw what it was like when the Enduro had home games.
But of course, it can't happen, of course, because of time constraints and everything else here. And the Open, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the British Open, it's the Open. The British Open is a squash championship. I mean, they do this with their rugby as well. It's not the English Rugby Union, it's the RFU is what. Whatever. The rest of the world calls it the British Open. It's the last golf major of the year. Cock-a-doodle-doo. 4 Kiwis teeing off at Royal Troon. Phil Tataurangi has played there. He is also one of a handful of Kiwis who've ever won on the PGA Tour. And he was our man to preview the opening round at the BO overnight. Phil, what's Royal Troon like as a golf course?
Yeah, a little bit tough when it gets windy, Marty, I must admit. Played there way back in the amateur days, and look, it's two totally different personalities. If you get the wind where it's prevailing on the way down, you could maybe break 30 on the way out, and then you just hold on. The closing holes, the closing stretch, if you're playing it back into the wind, crosswind, which is the prevailing breeze coming back in, you do well to break 40. So, hey, look, it's a as Fitzy used to say, she's a game of two halves at Royal Troon.
Yep. Okay. I want to go through who are the real chances of winning, but let's celebrate for the first time since 2009, 4 New Zealanders in that draw.
There you go. I was wondering how long ago it was, and I knew you'd do your homework, mate. Good stuff. 2009, yeah, a little while ago. And it's great, actually. A couple of really good stories in there. Foxy, of course, has been our leading player for a number of years, and he's continuing to do well. Good to see him back on UK turf, and just seeing how he would fare over there. He's got a little bit of work still to do in the States, but focus firmly on another major championship and expect him to go well. Of course, will set up well for him. Dan Hillier, obviously, in Europe, getting his feet under him and is getting a little bit of form under his belt here the last couple of months. But the two really nice stories are Kazuma Kabori, after his stunning summer down here on the Australasian Tour, gets a start with winning the Australasian Order of Merit. So it'll be his second major championship after playing at the PGA. And then the really lovely story is Mike Hendry, after all of the health battles that he had last year, that the RNA have honoured his spot that he wasn't able to take up last year, and him playing in the field again this year. So, hey, look, it's a number of great stories, a number of different form lines, I guess, to follow for the Kiwis, and a number of different tee times, basically from I think Dan teeing off before we go to bed tonight, and Mike Hendry teeing off in the early hours tomorrow morning.
He has run on the PGA Tour. He's one of a handful of New Zealanders that don't ever have. Phil Tataurangi with us. We're talking about the Open Championship. Look, I give it to sports administrators, and I give it to them a lot, mate. And you know that. And there is a very, very good reason. And then there are times like this where I say thank you for good common sense about the Michael Hendry thing. It's a really lovely gesture, but it's also something that should have happened. But sometimes in these things, they get caught up in their own red tape and self-importance. These train spotters who actually work in these things. Thank God somebody has actually gone, no. Let's put him in the tournament. And what a great story it is for them as well as for Michael.
Exactly. Common sense ain't that common nowadays, Marty. And thank God that you're around to call it out. I think the easy thing would have been to say, hey, look, we're in a really competitive environment these days, and I'm sorry that you got crooked last year, but hey, we're about trying to find the top 150 odd golfers around the world to play in the oldest Open Championship, and being a little bit stuck in their own self-importance. So I'm with you in tipping the old cheese cutter to the RNA and saying, hey, look, this is maybe something that you might not have done in the past, but you're showing a bit of heart, a bit of backbone, where a guy earned his way into the Open last year. He had to go through chemo
That's a reasonable excuse, isn't it?
The reason why he couldn't play last year. We'll give you a spot this year, and they're not too big to admit that. We are humans. We're not just AI and robots running the show that we'd like to see him play in the Open Championship. It's not his first Open Championship, of course, but we'd like to expand that spot. So for Kiwi golf fans, and for Michael and his family, great experience to be playing there this week.
I spoke about this with Telf yesterday. I understand why Colin Montgomery made those comments, and it's fair and perfectly fine. But geez, the flex from Tiger was impressive, wasn't it?
It was. Interesting how the facts can have a little bit of hot sauce on them. Colin's not a former champion, and I guess with the fact that I am, I get to make those decisions. He doesn't get to make those decisions. It was ice
cold, wasn't it? Could you feel the fridge door open at that time? Woo!
Yeah, look, hey, Marty, Monty's a favourite son, and this is his home club at Royal Troon, so they'll be celebrating him a little bit up there, but not of course, as someone who's got his name on the claret jug. So, and on that point, Marty, when you talk about Royal Troon, you have a look at history, and I know you want to kind of have a look at who's going to do well this week, but just an interesting note, and we're talking about the Open Championship where the wind can blow, and of course, it's Wimbledon's just finished. It's kind of like the grass court version of the game of golf, where they don't get to play it very often.
That's right.
And it has its nuances to it that are quite foreign from playing on the other side of the pond. But Royal Troon as a venue has actually been, quite welcoming to the Yanks. If you go back through the years, and Stenson won the last time there with a hell of a duel on a final day with Mickelson. But you have a look back and you go Justin Leonard, and you go Todd Hamilton, and you go Mark Kalkovickia, all Americans that have had some success there, along with Tom Weiskopf of another era. And you say, well, okay, it might be links golf. But we've seen guys that don't play a lot of links golf have some success there.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.